Next, we're going to hear from Renata Koch Alvarenga. She's the founder director of EmpoderaClima. Let me pull this up. EmpoderaClima is an educational platform about gender equality and climate action, and content available in Portuguese, Spanish, and English as part of the nonprofit Care About Climate. Renata has been a climate justice activist for over 4 years, having presented her work on climate justice and sustainability conferences in China, Germany, Bangladesh, France, Austria, and the United States. She's a graduate in international relations from Unicinos in Brazil and currently works as a political analyst at the British Consulate General in Rio de Janeiro. Renata attended COP25 with the official delegation of Brazil and is at COP25 representing Care About Climate. Renata, we'd love for you to share about your work.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for this important discussion on Youth Day. Today is Youth and Intergenerational Day, so we thought it was really important to talk about young women that are taking action, not just in these negotiations, not just being in this highly privileged scenario that we are at COP25 in Europe, but share stories with women from the global south who face these issues every day. So thank you for all of you for accepting the invite. It's unimaginable a few months ago to have such an amazing and diverse table that we have today and hear your stories. So thank you so much. So I do have a little presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about EmpoderaClima. It is a new platform that we launched this year on Earth Day on April 22nd. And the idea of it is to really be a messenger of these issues. Because we're women from the global south, but there's people like Lelelani in island states who live this every day. And we have to let everyone know about what's happening and do everything we can in terms of communicating that, speaking at events like this. So this is just our little share at Care About Climate to share these stories and talk about this to as many people as we can. We have a little video. Let's see if we can get that up to introduce.
Hi, my name is Natalie, and I'm from the United States.
Olá, meu nome é Renata e eu sou do Brasil.
Hola, soy Álvaro y soy chileno.
Do you know what gender has to do with climate change?
Tem muito a ver. Meninas e mulheres são muito mais vulneráveis às mudanças climáticas do que outros grupos.
En este Día de la Tierra, la ONG Care About Climate está lanzando un nuevo proyecto llamado EmpoderaClima, un proyecto para concientizar sobre la vulnerabilidad que el cambio climático produce en cientos de mujeres y niñas,
as well as the need for female leadership in climate action.
Essa nova plataforma vai ser online com a compilação de materiais em igualdade de gênero e mudanças climáticas em 3 idiomas: português,
English,
y en español.
All of us at Care About Climate want the theme of gender and climate change to be a topic that is widely discussed by youth worldwide.
Para llevar adelante este proyecto, estamos compilando documentos, videos, podcasts y también produciremos material original de mujeres que están trabajando para combatir el cambio climático.
Empoderar-se é ter conhecimento, e por isso o EmpoderaClima vai trazer esse conteúdo e tornar ele acessível a todos, contribuindo para a justiça climática.
The new platform of EmpoderaClima is being launched April 22nd, which is Earth Day.
Celebremos este Día de la Tierra repartiendo esta noticia, el lanzamiento de EmpoderaClima.
Pode ser com um amigo, um membro da família ou pelas redes sociais.
We will only defend human rights from climate change with everyone's help. That includes youth from the Global South.
Junte-se ao EmpoderaClima na COP25 no Chile, porque todos nós nos importamos com o clima. We all
care about climate.
Awesome. So this is our intro video that was launched this April. And as you probably saw, the initial idea was to gather Latin American youth. So that is why we wanted to keep the initial focus on Spanish, Portuguese, and English, as COP25 was going to be held in Chile, so the presidency, so that was our focus. And of course, we definitely want to expand to other countries and include other languages, because the real goal is to make this kind of content more accessible. As a Brazilian, I noticed that it is a little hard to find this type of content in Portuguese. A lot of people don't speak English, and even people at the university level with me studying international relations had no idea about the relation between women and climate. And that is something that's very worrying, I think, because as all of these amazing young women already said, human rights cannot be separated from climate change and climate policy. So how can we talk about land rights? How can we talk about climate action in general, mitigation, climate finance, if we're not considering the people that are most affected overall, indigenous women, for example. So this is just an effort to try and spread the word about this in Brazil, mainly with Portuguese language, but also in all countries of Latin America with the Spanish language. And we hope that this is just one of the initial initiatives that we can have to try and engage more people in these talks and bring this conversation that we have. That's why this event is called Translating Policy into Action. So translate all that is happening here that can be very difficult for people who are not very engaged with COPs, with the UNFCCC, and understand what is the Gender Action Plan, what is the Lima Work Program, how can we bring that to the local communities, how can we bring that to island states. So this is what we try to do with Care About Climate and EmpoderaClima. Next slide. So this is what our platform looks like, the menu page. So initially what we try to bring is original articles. So every month we have an article of the month. So we talk about ecofeminism and vegetarianism, for example, land rights and women. We've done themes on agriculture, on climate policy, and the participation of women in the UN negotiations. So basically a variety of themes across climate policy that involve women somehow, and we translate them into Portuguese and Spanish. And the other parts of it, podcasts, research, and videos, they're basically just a compilation of content that already exists, because as I said before, it is really hard to find that, but they are out there. There are already amazing organizations, groups of women that are creating podcasts in Brazil, for example, in Chile, and we try to compile that in one platform. But in the future, we also want to create more original content. So this is a little bit of what we're doing at COP, interviewing amazing leaders like the women that are here, and try to share their voices in a broader scale, in the global scale. So it's more content-based in that sense. But we also have another tab, which is the COP25 tab, which I'll share more. If you can share the slide. Yes. So at this COP, we're launching something called EmpoderaClima at COP25. And the idea is very simple, again, to share content, share knowledge. So for each day of the first week that we're here, we're trying to share what's happening, both in the negotiations on gender. So, for example, whatever's happening on the daily meetings of the Women and Gender constituency, whatever's happening in the press conferences about women and gender, whatever's happened also, for example, in Article 6 and its relation to human rights. So this is something that, although we're talking so much about here, and it's just very spread out, people back home, back in my home, I'm sure your homes as well, are not too aware of, because it is a very closed space. So this is our effort to try and share that. Initially just in English, but we'll translate that into Spanish and Portuguese after the first week. And it's our effort to try and make these conferences, which are highly inaccessible at times, more accessible and understandable to local communities, to my family, to my friends, to people in island states, to people in developing countries, to people in rural areas. So that is the goal. And we're also been trying to do that for the last year. It is, again, a very new platform, because we launched in April, but we've been very successful in coming to these spaces, which is very fortunate, and be able to have the side event is also a really great thing that we've been able to do. So we can talk about about gender and climate with you and share this knowledge. So if you could go back to the last slide. So this is a few of the things that we have been doing. at the local and global level. So the two pictures above are the Global Landscapes Forum, which happened in Bonn during the intersessionals of the UNFCCC this year. So this was a chance that we got to interact and talk about rights and rights-based approaches to climate action. So this has a lot to do with what we're talking about today, about gender, about youth, about the developing world. And I also had a chance to represent EmpoderaClima at the ACE high-level event in Austria. So that was also a great opportunity that the UNFCCC Secretariat provided to us, which was to get young people to these very high-level events in the global north and talk about what we're doing at the local level. So it's been great that we have this platform, but of course we need to do more. So I definitely invite you to bring not just the EmpoderaClima platform that I just presented, but all of these stories back home and also share your stories. I'm sure many of you are here for a reason. Many of you are climate activists, and especially the women here, the women from the Global South. I encourage you to share your voices as well and bring this back home. Talk to your family over dinner, talk to your friends at school or whatever you are, and share these stories, because that is, I believe, the core way to tackle climate action. We start with education, we start with people-to-people contact, and then we move to these negotiation forums, to these high-level events, and do the extra work that we need, which is in terms of policy. Yeah, so this is just a link. If you have any work that you've done in terms of research, maybe a video, a podcast, we would love to share it. That is also how we look to empower women. So we have the link, which is careaboutclimate.org/EmpoderaClima submissions. So if you have any content that you would like to share, we would love to have it on the platform and increase the youth and the female voice in these forums. Thank you. Yeah, so this is just our social media. Well, you find more posts and just this talk, for example, will be on there. And this is a picture from yesterday from the Indigenous Peoples Action about Article 6, which I think really is at the core of what we're talking about here. It's not online platform. It's not just climate policy in the global sphere, but it's actions like these, where we get to hear the people who are most affected by climate, such as Indigenous peoples, talk about their rights and what's most important to them. So I always like this sentence, which is, we can't fight climate change with only 50% of the population. I think it's a very simple sentence, but that's what we need to go back to when we're talking about climate policy overall. We need to go back to equity. We need to go back to gender equality, to youth rights. So that should be at the core always. I believe that's it. Yes, thank you very much. Obrigada, gracias, and I hope we can have a great discussion after this.
Thank you, Renata, and thank you to all of our panelists who have spoken so far.
True. So outside of this, high-level debates that we have, people have no idea about what gender has to do with climate change. So when I started EmpoderaClima, it was because after I had so many opportunities to learn, to attend a COP and all of that, one of my friends asked me, "Oh, can you tell me about the relation between gender and climate? My grandma wants to know." So would I send her the gender action plan? And, it wouldn't be feasible just because of the language, because it is a very technical language and also in English. So that's what I wanted to share, very fun podcast, make it sexy, like you said, make it fun. So I'm a big fan of climate activists that use poetry, music to share their voices, because I think that's what people relate to the most, rather than, just cold documents, pages and pages of negotiation documents. So I would encourage everyone that's here, you're having the amazing privilege of listening to these negotiations. So when you go back to your communities, to your home countries, I would encourage you to not just share on, a more higher level and, have talks and things like that, but also talk to your family at night. Oh, how women are more impacted by climate than other groups of people. That would be a way to start. So a very local, people-to-people level. I think that would be a great way to start. But also share your voice in whatever platform you can. Is the best way to do it, I believe. So just to end, thank you very much for attending this. Thank you to the panelists. You were amazing. You are amazing. And yes, and I would say just, going off of what everyone has said, just if you're from civil society, if you're active in this type of debate, just raise your voice. And if you're in politics, if you're maybe a negotiator, I would say listen. Listening is so important to these voices, to the civil society that's outside of here, speaking their demands, the women and gender constituency with their key demands. So I would say those would be the key active roles that you could have after this talk. And of course, I encourage you to check out EmpoderaClima at careaboutclimate.org/EmpoderaClima. And please suggest resources if you know any in Portuguese, Spanish, or English. And we welcome volunteers as well, so please feel free to talk to me after. But thanks to everyone for this. I think it was a really inspiring talk, and I hope you all enjoyed it.